kids, and some have come in the last couple weeks, and then up to Brother Brian's age. So which I think he's about 34 now, if I remember right. So yeah, give or take a few. And so we're having a good time back there. It's almost getting a little too lively. I'm about to start giving out demerits, and so turn around and I think one or both of the Bryans have started doing spitballs or something. So I got to get onto them about that. So they're getting kind of rowdy back there, but we are having fun. So I've been loving that, enjoying that, and we got a variety of ages back there, and each one gleaning something from it. So that's wonderful. I get to share some prayer requests, get to share some praises, some different things like that, and so I know you guys do that as well over here. So that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And so just a little aside there, your Sunday school, be there for that, and bring somebody with you, And then same thing with the revival times. Be there for that. Bring somebody with you. But looking this evening at fear, and so before we get into this, we're going to take one text verse. We're going to jump off. I have a lot of verses in here. Most of these I'm just going to read to you. If we tried to turn to every single one, because it's a word study, it'd make this artificially a lot longer, and we don't want to do that. We won't want to do that. So let's pray. Dear Lord, I'd ask you to be with me this evening, God. I'd ask you just continue to encourage and provide through this, Lord. And thank you for I believe, just how you've spoken today, Lord, and just in things, even in my notes this morning in Sunday school, you subtracted, you added, whatever it may be, Lord. And I'd ask you to continue to do the same, and how it reaches the one who's looking for it. They're listening, God. They're looking for something. And so I'd ask you to help them with that, Lord. Help things with the live stream, and just be there with that as well, Lord. Maybe it'd speak to somebody at home right now not able to make it this evening. But just whatever it may be, God, that you'd work. And so I'd ask you to be with us, and through this, prepare our hearts for that revival time in whatever way it may be. But I know you can do that, and I know you can build off it, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. Maybe I'll give you a little bit of context here. Well, let me get to the main verse, Matthew 10:28. It says, "And fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him which is able to destroy both soul and body in hell." Now, the first part of that verse leading up to, they call those colons, those two dots there. Fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul. You look a little deeper in your study, that'd be fear of man. And it's contrasting that in the second part of the verse, fear him which is able to destroy both soul and body in hell, with fear of God. And that's where we're getting the idea tonight that there is a wrong fear and there is a right fear. The wrong fear is the fear of man, of what man can do to us. That's the wrong fear there. It can pretend to be very valid at times. In reality, if we step back from a lot of what we consider to be the fear of man, in reality, it's just a lot of mostly fear of rejection. Nobody likes being rejected. I certainly get that. I think that's what holds back a lot of people from going soul winning. Well, I don't want to get rejected, Brother Barnes has been my partner pretty often. Brother Barnes, do you just come for the rejection? No, he doesn't. He's human. I don't know anybody who's like, oh yeah, man, yeah, reject me more. Tell me I'm a skunk. Tell me I'm a slug. Nobody's doing that. You want the door where the person says, you got a church? When can I go? You want that. We get those occasionally. But sometimes you get the other stuff. That's fear of rejection. I think that's what keeps a lot of people from even going in the first place. I've lost track of how many doors I've been to throughout the years and everything, building bus routes and whatnot. And during college, they required you to do so many hours on the weekend. I don't know. I don't think I have much feeling in my toes anymore when it gets cold anymore, because those Chicago winds and everything. And they're like, well, you're a freshman. You gotta just go do new doors, and in the middle of winter for 3 hours. Those boots just, they don't give you good stuff for that. You put on 3 layers of socks, and you get back to your dorm about 5 or 6 in the evening, and you just crawl under your covers and wait until you can feel something again. It's great. It's wonderful. They've changed the rules since then, and they've made it easier on them. And it makes me kind of mad, though, because, you know, you're like, well, if you couldn't have done that while I was there, you know, like, make these changes a year before I started. You know, I would have liked that, not freezing to death. But anyway, out of all that, you know, I've never been taken hostage at a single door, you know. We get worried about that. They're going to open the door with a gun. Like, well, you know, to my knowledge, that has not happened, you know. So I've had some grumpy people before, but over the course of it, there have been a lot of other doors where I got to lead someone to the Lord. That is an incredible feeling, to lead somebody to the Lord, whether it's at an altar or a Sunday school room or at your house or at a door or whatever it may be. I mean, in some ways, it's almost even better, like leading them to the Lord at their own house. That is incredible. That is an incredible feeling. Some of those people never ended up visiting the church or whatever, but their face and the emotion on their face afterwards and when they prayed is stuck in my mind. 10, 15 years later, I can't forget it. I can't. I've probably shared the story before. This isn't even my notes, but I love soul winning. I wish I was better at it. But this young man, he was probably 11 or so, maybe, and him and a group of friends were playing out front, and me and the other guy came by, and it was during a summer revival. We'd go out soul winning every morning, then have services that night. A tent revival, an old-fashioned tent revival, and me and the other guy, we got to witnessing to some of these kids, and I was witnessing to one of the older ones, and he got down to it, and he wanted to do it, and I could tell, but he was hesitant. And I said, well, is it just your friends? Oh, yeah, I'm kind of worried about it. I said, why don't you go in the backyard, you know, while we're out here in the front, and you just pray, you know, I gave him the track, just pray something like this, and I had explained it to him, walked him through it, and he went around that fence and everything, and we were talking to the other kids and inviting them. We had the bus routes there and everything. And he came back about 4 or 5 minutes later with tears in his eyes. I will never forget that feeling. Amen. I will never forget that to the day I die. And I don't know if he ever did visit on the bus route. That was in another bus route part of town, not the one I was working on. I was just helping them. And I don't know, but I guess I'll meet him in heaven someday. Yeah. You know, so yeah, you get a lot of rejection, but that's fear of man. That's fear of man. They don't often open the door, you know, with a gun or anything. I've never had that, you know. I've had them open once or twice and was like, could you maybe get dressed first, please? You know, so that more so, you know. That's happened about 3 times in the entire thing, you know, that I've done it, and just like, you have maybe some shame you could go back and grab or something and, you know, feel bad about this. I feel bad about this, you know. I looked it up, what the most common fears in America are right now. This was a 2025 study. Chapman University, this big group does it. I guess they do it every year. And it surprised me, you know, I'm thinking, well, most common fears in America, and then I had to learn there's a difference between fears and clinical phobias. Phobias, you know, I mean, for me, like, I'm originally from Detroit. I don't like this concept of rats, you know. I don't mind if you got a pet shop rat. That's fine. That's okay. They're kind of cute. They're smart, you know. But these feral things, oh my, ooh, no. You know, where they're living out in the fields and stuff, or the trash piles and getting to be as big as dogs, and no thanks, you know. But so that's kind of your phobias. Your fears are, I guess, a lot more of what we're talking about tonight, because 69% of Americans, just over 69%, and this was the 10th year it ranked first place. I never would have guessed. The number one fear was corrupt government officials. Huh. I mean, I guess that's timely. Yeah, so, okay, we've had plenty of that. Number two, just under that, about 59%, people I love becoming seriously ill. Yeah, that makes sense, yeah. Just a tad under that, number 3, economic collapse. Yeah. 4 and 5 were basically tied, cyber terrorism and people I love dying. I kind of get the one, people I love dying. Cyber terrorism, it's like, you know, okay. Well, I guess they could shut down your power grid or something. Other than that, you know, if they steal my email account, they're not getting much. You keep that spam. You keep it, brother. Thank you. You know, them Russian hackers or whatever it is. You know, and it's a lot of things like that, pollution of drinking water, stuff like that, pollution of oceans, government tracking personal data. It was a lot of kind of big ephemeral stuff, you know. I thought it was going to be snakes, something like that, heights, you know. But I guess those are more clinical phobias. A lot of that's fear of man. What we really need to be concerned about is fear of God. So we'll get quick study here of some of these, and the quick word study here, and then we'll break it down, we'll apply it. And we can write these down, or you can get your concordance out later, whatever it may be. But Psalms 23:4, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. That's about not having that fear of man, because you got the fear of the Lord on your side. Psalms 27:1, the Lord is my light, my salvation, whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life, of whom shall I be afraid? Once again, rejecting that fear of man. Psalms 56:4, in God I will praise his word, in God have I put my trust. I will not fear what flesh can do unto me. Psalms 108, verse 6, the Lord is on my side. I will not fear what can man do unto me. And always remember, what you see in the New Testament there, you're going to find in the Old Testament. You're going to find the same principles backed up. New Testament sometimes goes into a little bit more application, sometimes vice versa, but you're going to find the same things matching there. Proverbs 3, verse 25, be not afraid of sudden fear, neither of the desolation of the wicked when it cometh. Proverbs 29:25, the fear of man bringeth a snare, but whoso putteth his trust in the Lord shall be safe. Man, these match up so well with what Jesus was saying in Matthew 10. Well, let's get down to the New Testament. Romans 8:15, for ye have not received the spirit of bondage again to fear, but ye have received the spirit of adoption, whereby we cry, Abba, Father. 2 Timothy 1:7, for God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, and of love, and of a sound mind. Hebrews 13:6, so that we may boldly say, the Lord is my helper, and I will not fear what man shall do unto me. The devil uses fear to hinder the lives of many people, and the sad thing is that many Christians are hindered by that fear also, despite in reality being free from it in Christ. What we've lost in this country, really, that fear of the Lord, and we focus so much on the fear of man that we have gotten ourselves in trouble here. We've lost that fear of the Lord in our country in general, even amongst Christians, even amongst churches. That respect and caution of his terrible might and judgment, and we've instead become afraid of that, of flesh, of man, of really the wicked, and not even so much often of violence by them, but often more so rejection by them. That's what we've really become afraid of. Fear of the Lord is required to rightly walk with him. And fear of all that earthly stuff holds us back from serving him. Now, tonight, because we've got fear of man and we've got fear of the Lord, I've got two outlines. Oh, as if a preacher isn't dangerous enough having one outline. He brought two. Oh, my goodness. All right. So I'm going to keep it short. We're going to move through it quick. All right, that's my intention here. So the wrong fear, which one's that? Thank you, brother. Fear of man. All right, a couple of you out there. All right, you're on it. You're on it. Three things that the wrong fear will do to you. All right, and these, at least this outline, they match up. They're alliterated. Number one, fear will cripple. The wrong fear will cripple. And the wrong fear, it's a lot like trying to drive with the parking brakes on. Anybody ever done that? Okay, a couple of you nodded your head. Thank God. All right. Me too. Yeah, that's a horrible feeling, isn't it? Man, what's happening to this engine? This just doesn't have any power anymore. What? Oh, oops. All right. You know, better not tell the person you borrowed that car from. That'd be best. All right. So it felt like it was smoking a lot. I don't know what's up with this. I just kept giving it more gas, but it'll move eventually. I don't know if it'll ever be the same, but it'll move eventually. Indecision about the will of the Lord and a fear of what the world thinks will stop us from ever picking up any momentum. The Lord wants us to have some momentum. We go through hills and valleys. You guys ever ride your bike? You get through hills and valleys and stuff. I'm from West Virginia. It's all hills or valleys or something. There's not much flat, And the key is get enough speed going downhill that maybe you can get about 3/4 of the way up the next hill. That's usually what it is, because that momentum never quite works out. You got to keep that momentum. And you get to maybe the one little flat part, and all you're going is, man, now I'm losing all my momentum. I needed that momentum to get up the next one. That next one's going to be twice as hard now. Well, the devil doesn't want us to have momentum. He doesn't want us to be moving forward in the things of the Lord. He wants to see if he can slow us down. He wants to see if he can get the parking brakes on. And so if we're constantly worried, is this door open? Is this what the Lord wants me to do or not? And let's stop. Let's have a powwow. Let's think about this a while. And then the momentum's lost there. That's what he wants to get us doing there. He wants to stop us and throw something in our path. And that wrong fear will do that with us. The right fear, the fear of the Lord, keeps you walking through that valley of the shadow of death. And this fear, the wrong fear, acts like a trap. It paralyzes boldness. It silences witness. It prompts compromise or just outright disobedience. Compromise might as well be that. It replaces any God-given power with just timidity. And we're not going to be able to boldly come before the throne, the Lord's throne, because we get so worried about the thrones of this world. They got thrones too, but you're talking about the tin thrones of public opinion. You're talking about the porcelain throne of what Hollywood wants you to do with your life. The ramshackle thrones of the self-appointed judges over us, when we need to be boldly going before the glorious throne above. It shifts our focus from pleasing and obeying God to self-preservation or people-pleasing. It makes us ineffective in the work of the kingdom because we're too worried about what do they want down here when we need to be worried about what does he want up there. That's what we need to be worried about. It's a weight which just so easily beset us. It needs to be set aside. It bringeth a snare. It's hard to run the race of the Christian life with a bear trap on your foot, clomping around like that. It's hard. That'd be a fun teen activity. Where do they sell those ball and chains like they show in the old Western movies that they put on prisoners, That'd be fun. Maybe I can get someone to weld a bowling ball to some chains or something. I don't know, How fast can you run around this auditorium with one of those on? Some kid will get momentum. We'll start clanking away, and it'll pull them into a wall. We'll have a big hole over there come Sunday morning. I'll be trying to explain that. We'll be covering that up with tape, We'll rework it. But it'd be hard to move around with that bear trap on your foot, I heard the illustration years ago. A man, he walked home from work every day, and he got to the point, he always took a long detour because of one particular house that was on his route home. Why? This particular house, there was a real fierce bulldog that lived there. I can identify with that. There in West Virginia, we love to ride our bikes. There was this one by our house, this one road on a hill, believe it or not. And you get all the way to the top. It would take you forever to get to the top. You'd pick up so much speed going down that hill. The only problem was there was an intersection at the bottom of the hill. So you had to have a buddy stay down there at the intersection, make sure there wasn't cars coming, because you're not stopping, You could kind of tumble for a while, but that's it. That was fun till the dog who lived on that hill figured out what we were doing and started chasing us. Then it wasn't fun anymore. He'd let you walk past. He didn't care about that. You could sneak past him. But once he saw you pick up speed, he chased you down the hill. That wasn't fun anymore. So now I've got traffic. I've got this guy behind me. I got traffic down there. We're not making it. And back then, they didn't make you wear helmets. Anyway, this guy walked home every day. Same problem. You got a fierce bulldog out there. He had a direct route straight to his house. Well, he'd take that, but that dog lived there. And the dog barked wildly. There were a couple times, chased him down the street. And so he didn't like getting bit. I like dogs, but I don't like getting bit. I like dogs. I love dogs. Grew up around them. But after working at FedEx, I'm not petting you. You stay over there. I need a big stick to hit you with just in case. I don't trust dogs anymore. So he restructured his entire route. He'd go a couple blocks basically out of his way to do this. It'd add all this extra time every day, all this distance, this hassle. And one evening, he's exhausted. He got off late. You guessed it. He gets on his path and realizes partway in, I took the direct route. I'm on the street where that dog lives. And he's committed now. He's got to go through. And he's just passing that house. And it's quiet. He's looking over the fence and everything. That dog had moved a couple years ago. It wasn't even there anymore. All this time, he's been wasting all that time because he's scared of that stinking thing, and it's not even there anymore. How many of our fears are like that? We're so scared of this happening. We're so scared it'll whatever, or they'll do this to me, and it's unfounded. It doesn't even exist anymore. We get so caught up with stuff like that. All based on a threat that no longer existed or maybe never even was as bad as he imagined. And that's how often, it illustrates how fear keeps us from stepping into God's calling. Sharing our faith, but I don't want to be rejected. Or forgiving someone, but they might hurt me again. I got to keep that wall there. Or taking a risk in ministry, or obeying a prompting of the Lord. The Lord directs you to do something, gets on your heart about something. Because we imagine if we go down that path, that dog's going to attack, it's going to be disaster. It's going to be disaster. But Scripture reminds us that many of our fears are, here's a good acronym for fear, false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. There's your acronym for fear. And like the Israelites at the Red Sea, God is preparing a way for us. He's splitting things, but we're still frozen in panic. What if they catch up to us? I don't know. Just keep moving. Keep on the path God set for you. He's got an open door for you. He's got something for you. Secondly, fear will crimp. It will crimp. It will cut short what God could have done, what you could have done for the Lord. John 12:42. Nevertheless, among the chief rulers also many believed on him. But because of the Pharisees, they did not confess him, lest they should be put out of the synagogue. For they loved the praise of men more than the praise of God. That's fear of man right there. Fear of man's disapproval kept these rulers right here from openly aligning with Christ. And their potential work for the Lord was crippled, was crimped. They believed privately, but there wasn't anything publicly going on. And it says even that a lot of them didn't even come to believe on the Lord. And because of that, any of those who didn't come to believe on the Lord or didn't pursue it or didn't publicly confess it, well, what does that do? Well, that means someone else down the road, they didn't get the witness either, because we're supposed to be witnesses. So not only them, but somebody else down the road. The Bible tells us someday at the judgment seat there at heaven, at some point there within that process, we're going to be able to see basically Paul talking about the blood on our hands of the people that the Lord wanted us to witness to. He put that opportunity there. He put us in our path, and fear of rejection. No, I can't do that. They won't like it. Well, at least they'll know. It's better than them not knowing. So we know that. So for all the Christians that don't witness, that happens, or the ones that don't witness to somebody or whatever it may be, so our inaction, our cutting short, our crimping, the work of the Lord can harm others even for eternity. Not just short term here on earth, but eternity. How do you measure eternity? Thousands of years sounds like a lot to me, but when you really put it to eternity, that's nothing. That's nothing. Eternal torment. Galatians 1:10 tells us, "For do I now persuade men or God? Or do I seek to please men? For if I yet please men, I should not be the servant of Christ." And when fear drives us to please people or avoid their displeasure, we cease being servants of Christ. We're not serving Him anymore. We're serving them. Ministry becomes about human approval rather than God's will. We go out and sewing and are passing out VBS flyers or whatever it would be, and you see it on so many places now, and you don't want to get that idea in your head, but we don't want to offend a neighborhood because someone tacked up a no soliciting sign, so we'll go on down the road. So, we don't want to offend somebody. It'd just be better that how many people live in a subdivision? 200? Well, it'd just be better that none of them got the gospel. I don't want to offend nobody. Who are we pleasing then? Hey, and look, soliciting, I'm not selling anything. I'm trying to give things away free. We got the Supreme Court on our side. We got the Supreme Judge of heaven and earth on our side. Hey, brother, we even do the best when we're out there not to trample the daisies. We'll stay off your lawn, too. We'll be respectful. If an individual house has one, I might just go sneak up and leave a track and just get out of their hair, But at least won't go knocking or putting my foot in the door or nothing, So, and I don't do that on the other ones anymore, okay? But witnessing for many of us, that's a humbling thing. That's a humbling thing. But the Lord commissions us to it. He commands it. We got to obey Him. We're serving Him. We're not serving anybody else. In reality, It gives man the greatest gift that ever was and serves them more than anything else that ever could. I could buy them groceries, but that doesn't change their eternity. It'd be wonderful if I could. I could change their oil, but it doesn't change their eternity. Only the gospel will. That's the most important thing, the best, greatest way I could ever serve them is by giving them just that. 2 Timothy 1:7, for God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And then the next verse urges us, be not thou therefore ashamed of the testimony of our Lord. Fear's not from God as far as the fear of man. That steals the boldness and love we need for preaching, witnessing, serving, enduring hardship. And without that power, we grow ashamed or ineffective. And then thirdly, fear will crush. 1 Samuel 15:24 there, Samuel reproaching Saul, and then Saul's response to him about why he didn't follow the Lord's plan on it. And in there, in verse 24, Saul says, and Saul said unto Samuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the commandment of the Lord in thy words, because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. Well, Saul's fear of man caused him to disobey what was a very clear command from God. It cost him his kingship. It cost him the usefulness that he had to the Lord in Israel. And Saul's desire to have the people happy over obedience to the Lord eventually led to his complete ruin. And his son Jonathan. Jonathan was a good man. And Jonathan got roped all up in that. He dies in the same battle as his dad. Yeah, I mean, you could push it further. It doesn't turn out well for Mephibosheth either until the Lord gets onto David's heart about interjecting there. And that same fear today makes us water down the truth or follow the crowd instead of the Lord's calling, and it'll hurt our family just like Saul's. It hurt Saul's country. Be the true for us today as well. Matthew 10:28, our text verse there. Fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him which is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. And so when we dread that physical harm, and what it most often is, really just the rejection or loss from people, we shrink back from risking what would actually be obedience to the Lord. Preaching the gospel, confronting sin, stepping into ministry, helping out in your church. And fear of the flesh makes us prioritize earthly safety over what is supposed to be our eternal mission. No ministry can be built in that fear of the man. It can only be built in the fear of the Lord. And so quickly here, fear of the Lord. All right, let's look at the benefits. We don't want this, but we want this because it's got benefits. I can only give you 5 this evening, but I'll do it quickly. So, fear of the Lord, what will it accomplish in your life? Number 1, it preserves us to his plan. Ecclesiastes 12:13 tells us, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. That's a recipe for success. That's God's simple plan of success. Fear God, keep his commandments. Fear God, keep his commandments. You see it there in his word. He says, do this, keep it. He says, don't do this, don't do it. Do those things with that fear of the Lord, you'll succeed. Proverbs 8:13, the fear of the Lord is to hate evil, pride and arrogancy, and the evil way and the froward mouth do I hate. That fear of the Lord gives us hatred for sin. Now, it's a hatred for sin, not a hatred for the sinner. We don't hate the sinner, just the sin. We care about the sinner. That's why we're giving them the gospel. But that hatred of sin, though, will protect us and preserve us. We need the love for the sinner because we want to take him the gospel. But we need that hatred of sin because those sinners aren't the only ones who sin. This guy sins too. And he needs to be guarded against it just as much as I don't want to see it in his life. I shouldn't want to see it in my life either. And so that's why I need to work on it as well. And that keeps us walking in his plan. If the Lord there, through his fear, gives you a healthy hatred of sin and it being in your life, how are you going to go wandering into sin? How are you going to go getting off the path? If God, through the fear of the Lord, has taught you to hate sin and you hate it in your life, how do you wander off into sin then? The Lord has made that disgusting to you, like Pastor talked about this morning with a dog returning to its vomit. You're seeing that for what it is and going, I don't want that. Keeps you safe, preserves you. Psalms 25:14, the secret of the Lord is with them that fear him, and he will show them his covenant. If you want to know His will, if you want to know His plan, you want to know the nitty-gritty, the deep stuff, the secrets of His Word, you're going to need the fear of the Lord. You won't obey Him if you don't obey and respect and fear His might. You won't know His covenant as far as what are the duties He's left to us. What are the conditions of the blessings that He wants to give us? What are the privileges? You can't know any of that if you're not fearing the Lord and staying out of sin. Ungodly men, whether lost or just backslidden, can't really fully understand that unless they start walking with the Lord. Get saved, or if you're backslidden, get right, repent. Then you can start understanding what the Lord really has for you. Up until that point, you can't. Now, a backslidden person may sometimes come to themselves and realize what they aren't doing, though the Lord wanted me to do this. And if they got back to it, then the Lord could start directing them into what He wants and guiding them into those blessings that He has for them. But they got to get to the point where they left off from Him with. Job 28:28. And unto man He said, Behold the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding. And so that there, depart from that evil. It was going to harm you anyway. Secondly, it gives you wisdom. Psalms 111, verse 10, great one to have memorized. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. A good understanding of all they that do His commandments, His praise endureth forever. You can't even start on wisdom until you understand there's a great and mighty Lord who has mercy on us. Mercy's not in any way earned. It's not in any way deserved. It's only given. And then as well, the last part of that verse is praise endureth forever. Well, keep our praises of Him, endure them forever. That starts with you. Keep it enduring forever in your life. Proverbs 1:7, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Proverbs likes to throw those at you. They give you one statement and then they give the counter to it kind of, or the opposite, give you a little bit of do this, a little bit of don't do this. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. That's folly. That's foolishness. It's the antithesis of wisdom. There's your big word for the day. If you'll come to church for anything, as long as there's no preaching time involved, you despise instruction. That's folly. That's foolishness. Don't be doing that. I'm talking a Sunday night. You guys are here for preaching, all right? You may be here for each other. You may, be here. But I like to think. You're mature, But, if you're just, I'll go to that. We're going to do this, and all right. He's not preaching, right? Okay, I'll come. You're not doing that for you, or for the Lord. You're doing that for you. Look, a lot of these other things, the dinners, the breakfast, the cookouts, the shine meetings, the activities, that's all fun. It's got its place. It's building. We need those things, and they do in certain ways grow some people, and they can lead a less mature Christian or a carnal Christian or a lost person to the Lord or into deeper things, but that's not the bread and butter. That's not a replacement for the instruction of the Bible. Those things are good. We need them, but it is not a replacement to just cancel the preaching time or skip the preaching time. You need the preaching time. Thirdly, it provides. Most of these ones here are pretty short, so we're going to move quick. It provides. Psalms 34:09, verse 9. O fear the Lord, ye His saints, for there is no want to them that fear Him. Well, that makes me think of another really great verse in Psalms. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The Lord provides for those who fear Him. Hey, that's a good reason. Proverbs 14:27. The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life to depart from the snares of death. Well, those snares are going to cripple, but the fountain, that'll comfort, that'll fortify. We need that. Man, there's nothing like coming in from being hot and everything and working hard in the yard and getting that cool glass of water. Sometimes you get so dehydrated or whatever. I don't understand why you come in and oh man, I've been out there working for hours. You know what I need? A coffee. No, what? Or all these people and everything, they come in from being hot and everything. You know what I need? Like I'm in a commercial or something, a Coca-Cola. My body's saying, no, get over there to the sink and get you some water. It's not even cold, but you need some water, Man, this world dehydrates you. And we need the things of the Lord to just be that. And it's better than tap water, that's for sure. It's actually cool, and it's actually refreshing, and it's actually good for you. That fountain of life, we need that. And we need that. But we're going to need some fear of the Lord to have access to the fountain if we're going to get that. Fourthly, it protects. Proverbs 8:13, the fear of the Lord is to hate evil, pride and arrogancy, and the evil way and the forward mouth do I hate. And I know we read that one earlier, but if the fear of the Lord makes me keep my distance from what the devil uses to destroy me, I win. I win. If it keeps me safe and away from the things that were just going to eat me up, I win. There's protection in that. Proverbs 14:26, and the fear of the Lord is strong confidence, and his children shall have a place of refuge. Yeah, I think down at the root we all want a place of refuge. I think we all do, really, when it comes down to it. I think maybe some of us have it, maybe some of us have had it, wish we could get back to it, wish the Lord would provide that again in our life. It's great when you have that at home, maybe with the loved ones there, or whatever it may be. When you're younger, that hopefully, Lord willing, was the arms of a parent. For a lot of you, those parents have probably passed on now. We have the arms of the Lord, and they're there whenever we need them. Because sometimes the parents are gone, and sometimes the home life isn't a place of refuge. And so getting that fear of the Lord and getting into the place where he can protect and provide for us so we can have some refuge. Because sometimes there's just no replacement for that. You got good parents. I mean, how long do you really get to keep with them and have that refuge? Probably if they're good parents, they're eventually going to make you move out, age of 42 or something. You got a loving spouse or whatever, but sometimes that goes away, or the Lord sees fit to take that away, or time just carries on, or whatever it may be, or you're in a rough time. But the Lord is always there. That place of refuge is always there. And then lastly, it plans for the future. And it actually, the verse for that goes right along with that last one. That last one, his children shall have a place of refuge. This one, Luke 1, verse 50, his mercy is on them that fear him from generation to generation. Both verses there talking about not only is this good for you, this is good for those that come after you. This is good for your kids. This is good for generation to generation. If we continue on this, taking this healthy fear, the good fear, the fear of the Lord, and we pass that on, and we keep passing that on, whether it's through our own biological children, or the people we lead to the Lord, or the people we disciple, or the people we mentor at church and trying to be an encouragement to, whatever it may be, if we keep passing that on, the Lord keeps on just giving his mercy and protecting. He's got more for every generation, but he'd like us to pass it on to them. As a parent, and I was talking with my Sunday school about this morning, how difficult this gets sometimes. I try to protect my children from sin. I see what it does. I need to protect myself from it as well. I'd rather my children weren't as popular and didn't get to have as many of what the world thinks are essential experiences, and that instead they kept walking in the fear of the Lord. That brings mercy by protecting them from the mistakes that previous generations have made. We'll be a little transparent here. Raise of hands. How many of you, the last generation, weren't perfect? Your parents weren't perfect. Uh-oh. This is shocking. Absolutely shocking. Okay. How many of you set out, you probably wanted to protect your children from that? You probably tried to correct it in your own life. And you probably hoped that it wouldn't be passed on to your children. And maybe there were even things that you thought, oh man, this is a family trait almost. I gotta make sure and get this early. And I analyze things like that. There are things like that in my family. And thank God, God gave us sons and a daughter, and has given grace for each and every bit of that. Because there were things going back years in my family that I was almost concerned about. Is that just bad blood? Is that just I'm gonna have a kid and it's just gonna activate? Brother Brian laughs, but I was deathly afraid of that before I had kids. I'm serious, brother. We were dating, and I called my fiance crying that maybe I just have bad blood. Fear of the Lord overcomes all that. The fear of the Lord corrects all that, because he's protecting us from generation to generation if we're faithful to pass it on. It's a great reassurance to me as a father. I haven't even made it into their teen years yet. Pray for me. And many times what the children get into in their teen and adult years is because the appetite's allowed or even planted when they're Arya's age. Yeah, I struggled with that. I had one parent desperately tried to keep us in church, one parent that wasn't quite along with it until I was about Arya's age. And I saw enough on cable TV by that age that, even at that a young age, mom's going, where's he learning these words? Well, thank God God got involved and got a hold of people's hearts in that family and got us all in church. Thank God for that. And that's a heavy responsibility on the parent. There are things, children, even teens, they're not mature enough to handle yet. I was talking with Brother Brian Eldridge about that, your men, this culture out there sometimes, and the way people dress and the things you see, whew. And he said to me, brother, when you hit 50, it doesn't go away. I was like, you're right, brother. I can't just expect it to suddenly go away, whatever my sins are, whatever I'm tempted by. Instead, I guess I better just submit myself to the fear of the Lord and get away from it and help the Lord get some mastery over it in my life. Because it ain't going away. So we say kids, we say teens, we struggle with the same things. I'm so glad you grow out of your teen years and you never struggle with having a bad attitude again. That's been wonderful. I love that. There are things I have to be on guard for, in my own life, their life. I got people there, and there's something wonderful about a kid who grows up. They grow up in church. They don't know all the terms, slang, lyrics, and experiences of the world. Some of that, unfortunately, they get older. They start working out in the world, and they pick up some of that. And that was kind of nice. There were Bible college. You meet all kinds of guys there in the dorms, and some of them, people had taught them all that. And then there were some guys, their parents had kept them away from that. It was nice that they didn't know what all that junk meant. That was nice. I hope to err on that side with my kids. They can be wise to sin as to know it's dangerous, stay away from it, and not have to know the debauchery of every level of it. I'd love that. I'd love that for all of us in this room. They can become wise to sin in their adult years when God, their pastor, their parents have already taught them how to have those defenses built. And then you get that generation after generation. They can go forward with a foundation built on the fear of the Lord and serve Him. So maybe this evening, I think a lot of us struggle with the fear of the flesh of man. Maybe in the form of anxiety, shyness, trying to blend into the world, keeping that gospel lighter under a bushel like the Bible warns us. But I think a lot of us struggle with that. And I think that's what hinders a lot of us from being the witness or being involved in different things or being as vocal about it or as quick to invite people or whatever it may be or just, different things there. And so I think we struggle a lot with that, with being a little bit too consumed with this present world. There were some guys in Scripture like that, just too consumed with this present world. And we need to be more consumed with the fear of the Lord and what He'd have for us. And as well, that fear of the Lord reminds us, hey, sin has a price, even for the Christian, young, old, male, female, whatever it may be, on staff, layman, whatever it may be, Sunday school teacher, whatever it may be. It all has a price for every single one of us. Nobody's exempt from that. Let's just stay away from it. So this evening, let's bow our heads. Let's go ahead, if you would. Let's go ahead and stand. And I think what the Lord has directed me on throughout this evening, what He has keep putting in my thought, and maybe you've picked it up if you've been attentive, but I think our big thing there tonight would be, would there anybody else that would say with me that you'd want to pray that the Lord would help you overcome this probably fear of rejection to be a more vocal witness, to be a more faithful witness, to be a more constant witness. I struggle with that too. There are days I do not want to get out of the car to go up to those houses. I do not want to approach that person at the store. I do not want to approach that person in the parking lot. I do not want to take the tract to that person. They may look at me funny. They may think I'm different. Is there anybody else that struggles with that? Anybody else would show him with a raise of hands maybe? I sure do. So this evening, if you would, let's make that our focus, to pray on that, to overcome this fear of rejection that we have, because that's just fear of man. Miss Sarah, if you begin to play, the altar's open.